Welcome, welcome, welcome to another Writer's Showcase. Today I am joined by a bunch of wonderful guests. Uh, Today I am going to be joined by a few cool people. And now, allow me to. Oh dear, what the heck is that? Let me bring in my lovely guests.
行くわよ。来世の試練よ。
Welcome,
Good
Neph
afternoon,
Champion.
everyone.
So I actually just realized that I actually have something that I can use for Wise Wolf's introduction. I think it's
Ooh.
fitting.
Yes,
For
that
honor.
does look fitting.
Yep, I don't get how that's supposed to fit. But okay.
Wolf. It's Wolf.
I
They're
know, it's just Stark.
Starks.
I know. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I'd be quick to take your head off on. I make that decision yourself.
Well, that'll be if I say the prequels are bad movies.
Oh no, they are bad movies. They are.
I will
You
grab
don't have to defend them from me or anyone else.
I will grab the sword. Currently, as we speak, I have spies tracking your IP address. I will show up at your doorstep in 48 hours.
Yeah, Mr. Wolf is a very very avid prequel lover. He streams frequently with Anomaly Inc.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. He has a lot of cool things to say, and I'm glad to have him in my server.
The prequels are really fun movies.
It's fair to say that's my favorite. Like, period.
Yeah.
And all Star Wars films, it's my favorite.
I would
Yes.
agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say that's the only Star Wars film I have. Well, okay. I want you to take a guess. The number one Star Wars film I have not seen.
Rise of Skywalker.
I didn't see it. I see
What?
The Last Jedi. You're gonna Just take a guess on all the main.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay, exclude the sequel trilogy. Guess which one I have not watched.
Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Interesting. Well,
how did I know that?
Well,
it's
we have a couple.
I did watch Rogue One though. That film's actually good.
Well, we have a couple more guests. Welcome, Crow.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, Crow.
Crow.
And we have one more guest coming in. Welcome to.
Look! The moonlight shows us for what we really are. We are not among the living, and so we cannot die. But neither are we dead.
Hello, Nick.
Hello there.
Yeah, I was about to sing Tattered Sails. I thought it was perfect.
You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one.
Gerald.
Well, I just realized it's the first time I'm meeting Neph Champion, Wise Wolf, and Dr. Crow.
I'm not
Nice to meet
that.
you.
Yeah, right.
I'm not that famous. It's all you'll find. And,
You're famous?
No, I'm barely. I got maybe 63 followers total on my Wattpad account.
That's famous to me, so.
Yeah, it's as if I'm trying to reach fame. I could have all the subscribers in the world, and even then I would give less to it. It's like, no, thank you, but I'm not gonna do much.
Yeah, same kind of thing here. I did.
Right.
I mean, it's like I did start watching anime recently that I really liked. Still like,
Oh,
really love. Hang on, I gotta get a PFP for that one. It's yeah, I'll think about it. I'll find one.
Okay. So, for those who might be unfamiliar with how this works, basically, how this works is I run a Discord server, and anybody who would like to come on from the Discord on Saturday at 1 on MST can come on. Just ask me anytime. I will put you on the docket, and you may read your stuff on stream for everybody, get feedback, as well as advertise your content. If either Nick Brown or Wise Wolf have anything that they would like me to put in the description below, I will do that once the stream is finished. Sound good?
Yeah, perfect. I have nothing to promote, so that makes sense.
I will warn people. My assume it's going to be probably going to be the shortest. It's like the story I want to advertise is kind of short-handed on chapters.
Well, that's totally fine. Well, so I always go last with my stuff. How about Wise Wolf? Would you be willing to go first? Then Neph Champion, then Dr. Crow, and then Nick Brown, and then me.
Sure.
sounds good.
Perfect. Works for me.
Before we go, Nick, Wise Wolf, please introduce yourself, how you got into writing, and why. Tell people what's great about your stuff. What are like your talents as a writer?
All right then. I'm Wise Wolf. I currently started writing actually last year. My first fan fiction ever was actually the first draft I wrote for one was going to be an End War Game of Thrones one. I scrapped that. Because it was a stupid idea, and I made that as a rule for myself ever since I realized it. It's like, if I think the idea sounds stupid and it does not make any sense, then just don't do it, period. It's like, and especially since any Game of Thrones fanfic I was actually working on pretty much ended the second I saw Season 8. I could barely put myself together to finish the second chapter to one.
Yeah, that's horrible.
I was like trying hard. I think that the closest I got maybe 3 I want to continue working on. I scrapped it's like my first story I said I just wanted to do a soft rewrite because I made a lot of mistakes in the first 20 chapters.
Yeah, well, don't feel bad. The same thing happened to the actual writer of Game of Thrones.
I refuse to call him a writer.
Calling them writers is insulting.
No,
writers.
sorry, I didn't mean Game of Thrones. I meant A Song of Ice and Fire.
Oh yeah, George R.
George is never
Martin.
going to finish that book. Let's be honest, he's never going to finish it.
No, he's not. It's unfortunate. I feel bad for both him and George Lucas because they lived long enough to see their babies be killed.
And it's even worse for George because he trusted Kathleen. She worked with him for so long, and she just stabbed him in the back.
Yeah.
It's like she was planning it so long.
What he should have done is he should have put the person he was teaching himself in charge instead of the coffee girl.
He actually, it's like he trusted, like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are probably they were close with George, and Dave Filoni saw himself as like the Padawan to George.
Yeah. So he probably should have put Dave in charge. He should have.
I mean, it's up to circumstance. I don't know how long I think it's probably because he knew Kathleen longer, even if he was just the coffee girl and that dancer in Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Wait, she was the dancer in...
She was one of them.
Yeah, she was one of the dancers.
She was a background.
Oh.
Actually, at the time, she didn't look too bad.
It was before she ate all that donut.
So Wise Wolf, have you heard of the Boston University virtual Game of Thrones season 8?
No.
Basically, a group of screenwriting kids wrote a better season, 6 episodes of season 8, and it came out 5 months before season 8.
It's even better because it's even worse because season 8's already a dumpster fire. It even backstabbed Emily Clark in the back.
Yeah, with they didn't tell her exactly what they were going to do, or they changed it.
Don't construct to me words. Just say it straight up front. They straight up lied to her face.
Yeah.
They subverted her expectations.
Yeah, and then they just
imagine how she felt when she actually watched that episode with a bunch of fans. And imagine how disheartened she must have been. I actually felt bad for Amelia Clark when I learned this.
Oh yeah, she was broken twice by season 8.
I can just imagine her watching the episodes and her face going paler and paler and paler.
And that's not all. It's like she was wandering around online for 4 hours straight.
And she was, poor girl.
She was disheartened. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
It's like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's like
so we're a little bit off topic. We will save the Game of Thrones hate for a time where we have more time.
Yeah.
I don't even have time to explain why I don't have time to explain.
There's no time for this.
10 out of 10. Best writing ever.
Yeah. I don't even consider David Benioff and D.B. Weiss functional adult human beings. So.
Yeah, they're not writers. They're just into very ambiguously done women.
I'm so proud of myself. I'm so glad I got that joke in before that stream ended.
That was amazing, Crow.
That was my crazy laugh.
I have achieved greatness that a retelling of a joke I made makes people laugh so hard.
I've been told my laugh is creepy and it actually offsets people.
Oh no, you're
you
fine.
You still haven't made me snort yet.
Oh, it's just a challenge.
Okay. Well,
it is a challenge. Is actually trying to figure out why they were selected of all things. I wouldn't trust a 5-year-old to write Game of Thrones to these two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Wolf, is there anything else that you would like to tell us about, how you got into writing stuff like that before you get into stuff?
Okay, I think the first fanfiction I ever read was an Attack on Titan fanfiction. It happened after I finished the first season all the way back in 2013, 14. I didn't get back at Attack on Titan. It kind of went down the drain fast. And it's like... And then afterwards I moved on from there to Naruto, then to Harry Potter, then I ditched both fandoms, and then it's like, I'm clearing out my fandom list, but I do know that it's like, I like Fate, I like Fire Emblem, I like Danmachi, and I like a bunch of other anime. I like Halo, and what else?
Have you tried Sword Art Online?
I did. It was actually one of the first anime I watched. I like the Aincrad art.
Yeah, the light novels are better.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Well, it's because you're actually in his head.
Okay, so
a lot of his characterization is cut out because in the anime you're not in his head, and all of it is internal monologuing.
At least, I guess we can also both safely assure that Danmachi had a really bad second season. The first season was great; it was amazing. Tori was good, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. It was because they kind of they kind of missed the point with a bit of Leffy's character. They kind of did a lot of her. They kind of focused more on the elements of she loves eyes, and she's a bit of a klutz. It's like I did see enough of Loki Familia, but I like them all. I don't think I can actually tell you. Like, if you were to force a gun to my head and ask me which character of Don Machi do I like the most, I will not be able to say a goddamn word because there is no. I like them all. I even like Freya, who's the most. Well, Freya is like, well, she's Freya. She's kind of an interesting character. Actually, she is an interesting character.
I still need to watch that. God damn it.
You read the when you get to the light novels and you learn about what they did to like volumes 5, 6, 7, and 8. No, 6, 7, and 8. You're really gonna be angry because they cut out so much in the second season. There was barely. It's like they cut out a lot of the arcs and condensed them down. In fact, the last 2 episodes they just wasted on pandering towards a ship, and it's annoying because the ship doesn't make any sense. Not from a character's, well, from the main character's perspective, since the main character really, like, he loves his goddess as a goddess, not like a person you think he can romantically feel feelings for. If I can even say to himself that she's a goddess and he's just immoral, he doesn't view himself as worthy. If anything, he views her more like a mother. And it's coming to understand how he views certain characters, which makes me understand why some ships don't really would work, because they would not be able to work from the context of Belle as a character. Mm-hmm. People don't really like Hestia or Lily's attraction towards Belle since they're very clingy. And they don't ever really think about his feelings about it. They just think about themselves.
Alrighty.
Mm-hmm. I think we're finished.
Alrighty.
If you want a 25-minute rant, then maybe wait till I decide whether or not I want to make a YouTube video just talking to the microphone with nothing to go off of.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna write a script. I'm just gonna
rant.
I'm just, you know what? I honestly finished BNA, and it's something I want to talk about. Since BNA is like, it's not bad. It's not really good either. It's just somewhere in the middle between okay and meh. It was made like the same people who made Kill la Kill, but without the fan service. Like missing a lot of the.
Yeah, Kill la Kill is
Do this speech.
Speech. There's the speech.
It's like, you really achieved it when you use the fan service to further the plot.
Alrighty.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Well, go for it. Read your stuff.
Okay, hang on. This one I made because I really like the Tom Clancy games, and I don't like the direction they take the story afterwards. I hate it with all my passion. I don't like it. It's like I hate them from a more story perspective than a gameplay perspective, but even on a gameplay perspective, I hate them. I never. This is not kind of someone who played them, but more or less the direction they actually have as a game. Like, I don't. It also doesn't help that none of the Ghost Recon games match up with the actual timeline that's been established. Because unless you want me to get into like a 5-minute reasoning for why Ghosts are the most, or why 2019 and 2020 are so separately apart in the Ghost Recon timeline, then stick around. So I made this one because I really liked End War. I have at least 2 chapters I already have made. It's another 2 in drafts. Do you want me to... You mind if I go for the teaser first before I move on to the actual chapter?
Go for it.
Alright. 2012. News reports came onto a television in the U.S. as the occupants were strangely absent. We are currently looking at a peace returning to the region now that the EU has intervened in the Morocco coup, as Prime Minister Hamir Kulva is elected and promises to strengthen ties with the... That comes on screen, cutting the broadcast short. 2015. The screen returned to normal as the words breaking news appeared on screen. It is now in Dubai. The news reporter was speaking in Arabic. The Islamic Republic of Iran has signed an alliance with the countries of Afghanistan, and Iraq has promised that unless Saudi Arabia relents on the trade embargoes on them, it will not hesitate to use force. The reporter brought out a piece of paper. King Hashim has made his response public from the palace in Riyadh, saying that, quote, I will not relent unless Iran admits that it is pursuing research into weaponizing fires to use against the Arabian Peninsula coalition to take control. The UN has yet to make the potential threat of nuclear weapons being used known. Once more the screen became static as an explosion happened in the background, and the house it was demolished. 2016. All over the world there were reports coming in of a catastrophe that rocked the world forever. Am I going too fast?
No.
Alright. Several screens were showing the same thing. The reporters speaking in English, Russian, French, German, Chinese, Hindu, Arabic, Hebrew, Afrikaans, Spanish, Portuguese, Polish, and all kinds of languages. As you can see, this is, no reporter speaking in Russian continued, a catastrophe that is unprecedented and will have disastrous effects on the ecological and in French, and economical stability of the world as German, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, United Arab Emirates, Spanish, Oman, Yemen, Somalia, Afrikaans, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Sudan were Portuguese at the forefront of what these, as Chinese, the world is calling it Hindu, the greatest nuclear catastrophe since the Chernobyl nuclear reactor disaster in 1986 and the more recent Fukushima disaster 5 years ago. Polish, as nuclear weapons used by Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Iraq were unleashed late in the war, devastating the countries afflicted while the countries in Africa were the least affected by this catastrophe. English, every country between east of the Jordan River, Pakistan, and south of Georgia are heavily devastated by this. It is unclear as to how this happened. It is presumed that they were Arabic, launched by one of the warring countries, but who started it is unclear. But it doesn't change the fact that Russian, thousands of homes lie in ruin, gaining a death toll that is currently estimated. French, to be in the range of 1 to 5 million deaths, with a worrying amount of 3 to 6 million injured and dying. Chinese, there are no words to describe what happened other than English. The worst thing that happened in the history of war for the last 100 years. The UN has been devastated by what has happened, and an emergency council has been called to discuss the next course of action by all nations of the world. 2017. A television with an American household switched over to the news channel. In a breaking turn of events, and as President Becerra, Prime Minister Mikhail Fedorov, and many representatives of the European Union have signed the Reykjavik Accords, ordering all countries with nuclear arsenals to dismantle all weapons capable of launching them. Meanwhile, the development of the space, land, air missile shield is complete. It will be fully operational by the end of the second quarter, as we take a moment back to reflect on what happened that day 1 year later. 2018. This is not a news report, this is more like a general detail. Meanwhile, in Russia, due to the economic benefit of having become one of the biggest suppliers of natural gas, has begun an arms build-up and has led to the creation of the Spetsnaz Guard Brigade, with upgraded equipment and development of new vehicles and armaments. Over in the European Union, one person suggested a policy dubbed the Articles of Federation, which, if passed, would turn the European Union from an organization into a nation. 2020. 4 years have passed since the Middle East was devastated by war. Anything east of the River Jordan was gone. Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Israel were all that remained of the ruined Middle East, and the world's largest supply of petroleum. The US and the EU were forming a solution to the problems for when the oil eventually stops, coming as research until alternative fuel methods were being pursued, and research into safe nuclear energy was at the forefront of their worries. Russia to the east was holding strong due to being a supplier of oil to the continent of Asia and half of Europe. The Articles of Federation were still debated to this day. All seems normal. Well, as normal as things can be after what has happened. But who's to say there isn't more than to what's going on? How was that?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Answer the question, DP. It's actually End War with Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, Splinter Cell. No, that's it. But it's mostly within the backdrop of me take at the end war timeline. DB, I too am waiting for the next Splinter Cell game. I am immensely disappointed with what they're doing with Sam now. But to be fair, if they ever make a Splinter Cell game, they will ruin it. Like, it's Ubisoft. They ruined Rainbow Six, they ruined Ghost Recon, and I consider The Division to be the most abominable thing to have the Tom Clancy name on it. I refuse to even call that Tom Clancy game.
I like the accents you put on when you were reading some of it too. That was pretty cool.
I tried to. It's like the backdrop was. In fact, I got a comment that stated it was like those old news reports, you know, with in some movies where you have like news reports flying on screen to tell you what's been happening recently.
Yeah.
I did not go over that style intentionally. I went because I thought it would sound nice. I thought it was like, you know, it would be nice to have that kind of a backdrop.
It does sound good.
Thanks. Here's how I managed. Anyway, I have like an introduction to. I have like 4 different chapters. One of them is the first one up is the Ghost Recon. The second one that I'm running as of now, is it will be the Rainbow chapter. The third one will be the SGB one, and the fourth one will be Echelon.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Samantha Dragon.
It was a great introduction.
No. Well, yes and no. Well, first off, the politicians I used were President Becerra is a character within the End War universe. He's the actual president of the United States in End War timeline. And last I checked, I think Mikhail Fedorov is actually the prime minister of the Russian Federation in that timeline. Let me check.
Okay.
Unless I made him up, in which case, then yeah. Like I wasn't willing to use names, but I don't think I actually used the King of Saudi Arabia. I may have, but I don't remember. No, it's different. Nope, I used an entirely different person. The actual person his name was so Russian, I couldn't even bother to put it on screen. If I actually try to tell you what it's like, here, I'll post it in the, I will post it in the private chat here. And I'll tell you, and you'll see for yourself what I mean. This is how, oh, crap. Yeah, that is extremely how Russian his name is. It is, yep, Visiveloid Visivelvish.
That is incomprehensible. I would not be able to pronounce that word.
I guess I did. I don't think I even knew this when I wrote it. I just made him up because I don't think the game ever stated what his actual name was.
Huh.
Now, some of this stuff I haven't fully stuck to the End War timeline in some cases because actually by this point the United States military has an entire special forces group called the JSF. They're essentially what the U.S. Army's Future Warrior program was going to be. It's like that's a success. That was like if the Future Warrior program succeeded. It's that entire army is the United States Army's is the Future Warrior dream. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Ghost Recon is actually the Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter were actually based upon the Future Warrior program that was going on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because by 2013, I think, during the time of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, which is when it takes place, it actually came out like 2005, I think. But yeah, they were pretty big on it. Ghost Recon 2 even had an entire advertisement for the Future Warrior program within the extras.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, Operation Warden is what I call this, and nobody but me has actually viewed this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I also listed all the I listed all the different languages. If I had to differentiate which person is talking and why it's in a specific mission, then this is why. If it's not in a different form, then yeah, it's just English. It's plain English. If it's in italics, then it's foreign. If it's in italics but has no quotation, this is a thought. But if it's in italics and underlined, it's everything. No language required. And bold, that's just English, but it's covered up. And bold italics, that's foreign, but it's covered up.
Mm-hmm.
Location: Middle East. Exclusion zone: Iran. Date: April 22nd, 2020. Time: 021. And in parentheses I put 12:21 a.m. It was night within the Iranian exclusion zone as a team of ghosts were dispatched to investigate a former Iranian black site due to intel retrieved by Third Echelon regarding Iran's former investigation into biochemical warfare. Predator, this is Overlord. Come in, over. Team Delirious radio went off. Overlord, this is Predator Lead. You're at the black site corners ready to commit the operation, over. All of them were wearing protective gear due to the land still being heavily contaminated by the nuclear radiation. I may have overused the word over, so I'm just going to cut that out.
That's fine.
Yep. Roger, Predator. You're cleared to proceed. You need to investigate the site and ensure that the intel's accurate. And well, if the intel is accurate, destroy it. Leave nothing behind. Out. Turning to the squad members, he motioned them to follow. They moved through the rough terrain that the former nation was known for, including the high mountains. Hey, boss, what do you think would have happened to Tehran if this turned out to be true? Leave it to Zeal to ask a what-if question, one that he had no idea the consequences. He just knew that if what happened so long ago, then the world... He just knew that what happened so long ago didn't. The world would be very different than it is now. There was 2,000 U.S. soldiers in Iraq, and when President Becerra was elected in 2016, he sent them home, refusing to send more to die for war that would have been more costly on lives. Now look at it. Millions dead and even more dying. There was no turning back. When he thought about it, there could have been more. I don't know, Uziel, but stay focused. We have a mission to complete. There's the compound. As the leader said it, there it was. A small, unsuspecting compound. His cross-comms zoomed in on the site. It was clear that the site was abandoned shortly before the nukes were launched. He did not know how shortly. Right now, all he could hear from his spot was his breathing, the footsteps of him and his squad, and his built-in Geiger counter clicking based on the radiation in the environment. You could tell that it sure as hell wasn't safe enough for even a single part of his body to be exposed to the air. Well, sir, here we are. Another member of his squad, Devil, had commented. They observed it from their position on one of the nearby mountains. Yeah, better contact Overlord. Overlord, this is Predator Lead. We have eyes on the compound. This is Overlord. We are seeing footage from your cross-comm link. This place has seen better days. Move to the compound, but be careful. We don't know if you're truly alone. Affirmative, Overlord. Player Lead out. He grabbed his grappling gear from his utility belt as he and the rest of his squad began rappelling down the mountain close to the compound. After hitting the base of the mountain, they got even closer to the compound, and their Geiger counters got louder, indicating that the site was close to a nuclear event. No doubt a missile was fired at or near the location of the site. It must have been damn near close considering that the fact that the facility was still here if it was close enough. If it was close enough, there would be nothing left. He did not like either result. Damn, I feel sorry for those poor bastards. Count on Devil to be sentimental. You could see why. They were at the entrance to the facility, and on the chair within the post was a corpse. From the looks of things, he was killed by the blast. There's nothing we could do for him now, Devil, so let's go. That'll be Kilo. They're heavy. He was more professional than anyone, so he didn't really let personal feelings get in the way of their operation. Devil opened the gate, and he officially entered the compound, searching for the rumored biological weaponry. They turned on their flashlights as they closed the door behind him. You know, thinking about this line, I probably should have changed this part since cross-comms are supposed to have pretty much everything built within them, including night vision and thermal. I'll fix that later on. Overlord, this is Predator Lead. You're inside the compound, searching for the target, over. Overlord, this is Predator Lead. Do you copy? This was bad. Why did the communications suddenly go out? Uziel, try your comms. Uziel nodded and tried to communicate. Overlord, this is Predator 2. Come in, over. Nothing, boss. Now he was concerned. He did not like the current situation. Let's stay on the objective. Hopefully we can get our comms back in working order by the time we are finished. The others nod as they went into a loose formation, activating the night mission mode. Okay, I did put this line in here! This is redundant since I already have this on here. Activating the night vision mode built into the cross-comms help illuminate the compound as they went inside, looking for the objective. If the base looked desolate on the outside, it looked like it was abandoned on the inside, with some parts of the wall showing their age with cracks in it. Even the paint started to wear on the floors. It felt like despite their best efforts, they were not able to get everything out in time, due to the various objects left scattered on the floor in their hurry. Doors wide open, papers scattered across the floor. Damn, the war was a bit south fast that they were rushing to get out, commented Devil. They were descending down to the basement of the facility. According to the satellite footage of the place, the garage was built into the underground so as to rise out a few miles away from the compound. They noticed that the guided mount ears clicking had reduced slightly, indicating that the basement was safer, even by a little bit. Well, that's a relief, Uziel said, trying to break the sounds, even though the clicking sound itself was enough to break it. They had reached the bottom of the stairs and Kilo slowly opened the door, his eyes darting over the corners as he entered the corridor, pointing his weapon wherever his eyes looked and stepped inside, signaling to the rest of them that the corridor was clear. Uziel was the second to enter, keeping his eyes on the side. Devil's blast as the team leader entered third, mimicking what Uziel was doing. Devil closed the door behind them. They continued down the dark hallway towards the area where the objective was supposed to be. Various doors with the names covered in rust was spread out across the hallway. The game had turned down to the left and made their way following the pathway. They found a single door out of the entire way, and this was where the path ended. This is most likely our objective. Devil, Kilo, in front, prepared to open secure. The two nodded and formed up at the door, with Devil putting his hand on the knob as Kilo readied up. The team leader stood behind Devil and Uziel behind Kilo. On a count of 3. 1, 2, clutching his hand to signal 3. Devil opened the door and entered first, with Kilo going second. Lead first, Uziel last. They didn't see anything, except for 8 boxes with handles on it, containing what was hopefully their objective. Overlord, this is Predator. You have eyes on a series of containers. Checking over. See nothing. Kilo, can you confirm? And Kilo was carefully lifting one of the handles up, revealing tubes containing reddish gas. He nods to his team leader, confirming their target. Right then, now we have what we came for. Set the charts. The stuff isn't getting out. Everyone's still following?
Yep, still following.
Any criticism so far?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I do have something to say though. I really like how you're doing the
radio noises?
the sound
Static.
effects. That's really cool.
Thanks.
I love it. I was like,
Mhm.
I like that.
You're not just saying this not to don't hurt my feelings, right?
No, it's awesome.
Thanks.
Yes.
Devil, let me just grab my water bottle right. He nods to his team leader, confirming. Sorry. Devil and Kilo prepared the charges, while Uziel took note of the room they were in. It was spacious, almost like there was supposed to be more here. He also noted that there was a wide door which is expected would lead outside so as to provide quick transportation of whoever was in here. However, before he could speculate further, he heard a faint noise go off in the corridor they came from. Hey boss, did you hear that? Lee turned to him. Hear what? He questioned. This is a mistake on my part. I think I heard something in the hallways. Lee looked to where he was facing and listened closely. I don't hear anything. Are you sure you heard something? He nodded. He knew his ears weren't lying to him. He heard something. Keep an eye out. But Uziel raised his weapon to the hallway until he heard a rolling sound nearby. He looked down to see. Grenade! He yelled. Alerting his squad, except it didn't explode, sending Sharple rather short their electrical equipment, knocking our cross comms offline. Uziel tried to sprint from the door, managing to get away from it before the grenade locked his equipment offline. They heard footsteps coming from the hallway, and he heard suppressed. Okay, this is an author's note I made. Not silence. It doesn't silence the sound of bullets. It suppresses it. It's kind of annoying that people. It's not silence gunshots. It's suppressed.
Yeah.
Gunshots go off. Uziel gets to cover. Before he can move towards the squad, he was filled with bullets penetrating his armor and killing him within a few seconds. Uziel, now! Gil shouted as his comrade went down before he could get to safety. Suppressing fire! Lee couldn't afford to panic in this situation. Even with one of his men down, Gil was unloading his weapon to the door that he knew they were behind. Every some of them dropped as he kept firing. They almost didn't hear the door to the outside open. Keyword being almost. It was Lee, door to our right. He saw it opening up, and out came smoke grenades that popped out clouds of smoke, making their current situation worse. Keep up the suppressing fire. Both Lee and Devil aimed towards the cloud of smoke as they saw lasers emitting from their guns to their enemies, popping shots wherever they could as their systems were rebooting from the EMP before it finally came back online. Alright, line them up, we have vision. The tide was slowly turning. As they switched to thermals, began firing back at their attackers. And before they could turn the tide, large flashes blinded the team, and Lee could see from his crossgun that both Devil and Keel's vials suddenly flatlined. He felt something hit him hard on the head, stunning him. His vision slowly refocused as a pair of military boots entered his vision. Question mark, POV. The man in question was staring at the downed ghost, watching him. The one Orange approached him. Sir, he's speaking in a foreign language. I don't say what because I leave it intentional. Sir, you're a and I also forgot to put this in bold. Fuck me. I forgot to put this part in bold.
It's easy enough to fix.
Yeah. Sir, you're loading up the rest of the cargo as ordered. He turned to the soldier. Good. I have to thank them. Without them, we would have been able to acquire a package. Sergeant looked at the ghost, seeing he was still alive. Sir, what about him? He questioned. Don't worry about him. He won't be alive anymore. Give me a vial, Corporal. Leeds POV. He saw a man who killed his team loading up the cargo into a series of trucks that no doubt were waiting for him. Then he saw the person in front of him crouch to his eye level. I have to thank you. If it wasn't for your presence here, we would have been able to retrieve our objective. Lee looked at him. Who are you? He could feel the eyes of the person in front of him piercing through his mask. I'm afraid I can't tell you, because when they do come to find you, they will search for us. I don't want to make it any easier for them. Even your cross-comm can't identify me right now, can it? He gritted his teeth. He was right. His cross-comm tried identifying on whatever it could use. Face, voice, and even speech pattern. Nonetheless, even if I tell you, you won't be able to tell the tale. You know what's going to happen. What has happened here will be hidden from the public. I know this. Soldier he was talking to came back holding a vial to target. You see this vial? We have yet to know what it does. Who knows? Maybe I could drop it. Lee was afraid that he was going to break him and the vial was going to leave him in the room. He could tell his mask was damaged and couldn't protect him for it long if at all. If at all. But I'm not that kind of person. No, I have nothing against you to subject you to the agony of testing us. Nothing personal. It's all just business. He gave the vial back to the soldier and instructed him to return the vial in the language he was talking in before. I am sorry for what I'm about to do. I know what it's like to go out on a mission and never return. After all, the person lifted Leeds' face up and removed his mask, allowing the radiation to the surroundings to seep into his suit. It started to slowly kill him from the inside. If I was cruel, I would let you die from this. But I'm not. You heard the pistol being drawn and loaded. The last thing you saw was the barrel of the pistol that would end him. Bang. He shot the ghost and ended his misery. Oh, back to question marks POV. He shot the ghost and ended his mercy. He wasn't a type to lead him to suffer to this kind of death after all. He knew what it was like to suffer. Commander, you finished loading it. He turned to the soldier that came back. Good. Load up. Our client shall be satisfied. He walked up to one of the trucks and jumped in the passenger seat. He pressed a few buttons on his wrist computer, disabling the jammer he set in place on our trucks. No doubt the communications we silenced should be coming back to life. After all, they'll comfort our boys. But it won't be easy to retrieve. They aren't supposed to be here, no matter. He looked forward as the truck drove away from the compound, as the sound of helicopters came hours after they left. Like Ghost, we were never there. Like them, we aren't real.
Finished?
Yes.
Nice.
Nice. That was good.
Yeah, I really like it. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time.
It is very good.
I actually, for the next chapter, I'm going a bit more detail since I wasn't all that detailed on what weapons they were using, what their physical descriptions, but it wasn't important for the ghosts in particular since, I knew I was going to end them anyways. Oh, thanks, Charles.
Yeah, you're really good.
I actually thought myself as more as a mediocre writer. I never had anyone give me feedback that I didn't think they would say just because, well, they're my friend. They won't say anything to hurt my feelings.
And...
Also, Drake confirmed it for me. Right there, Drake the Duelist. Yeah, there's between a silencer and no silencer. It's basically taking a sound that would do permanent damage and making it sound still loud but not dangerous.
Yeah. And,
Charles, if you want to read the story yourself, you can actually check it out on my Wattpad page. I have it up on there. It's you'll find my Wattpad. My username is Wolf Cybot. I have some stories you probably would read if you really wanted to, but if you wanted to read this story, it's called War of Shadows. The name is intentional. In fact, I even have a description for it that pretty much reflected what I wanted to go with it.
Dang it, I need to change one of the titles for my upcoming books.
The next chapter will be a Rainbow Six introductory chapter, and I'm mostly going with OCs for this chapter, and I'm more than willing to accept if anyone has like a character they want to submit for this story.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you want to be Great Ghost, Rainbow, Splinter Cell, or SGB, probably just hit me up on either leave a comment down on my leave a comment on my story. Or send me a PM, send me a DM, whatever. Or heck, I'm actually have a chapter planned where I just say, I need OCs. Please give me some.
I actually, if you want, you can put the link to your stuff in the advertise your content section of the Discord.
I did.
Oh, you did already? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Thanks guys for telling me that I'm actually good at this.
Yeah. Oh, you are.
Yeah, of course.
I decided to go a bit more. I even looked up the police codes because I wanted to name a chapter something nice. So I looked at the police codes and found the one I thought was the most appropriate for the chapter. The entire story won't be forever like this. Like the ghosts will be chasing after these people, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I have planned is that each of the groups will be going after their own individual targets. It's because of three separate things. You have the Rainbow's currently tracking down an eco-terrorist group that actually exists within an end war called the Green Brigade. Then you have ESGB invading the exclusion zones to get back at the Forgotten Army. Russia invades Afghanistan twice.
Yikes.
Dang.
I actually need to. I really like going into. It's like I have not played like all the Tom Clancy games, but I really like what I know about. I really like the story of some of them. I figured that the last Ghost Recon game I could, Cybot. It's Noob Cybot. That's what I named. That's what I named the last part of myself after.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out names for my Wolf Cybot.
Alrighty. So we have an hour before I need to close out the stream. So, Neph Champion, I believe it is your turn.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Here it is. Okay. So I'm going to be picking up where I left off last week, sort of. So we're picking up back with two of the three main characters, and they happen to be dealing with someone who enjoys using the monsters in a game to kill other players so that he can get quest items easier. You already know him. His name's Copel. So Kirito had his hand around Copel's wrist. You goddamn fucking moron, Copel. Kirito snarled. I don't have the patience for your shit today. What were you planning to do? Hide from them? Copel swallowed. No, he he asked. Kirito sent him a glare. Go back to Haruka. But Kirika, I said, Kirito snarled. Go back to Haruka. Kirito stepped into the Copal's personal space. Do not make me repeat myself a third time. Asuna and I will handle the rest of the quest. Yes, sir. Copal winced. He turned, rushing towards the entrance of the dungeon. Kirito cut down 3 mobs, noting that one had a flower. So, what are you going to do about him, Sensei? Asuna asked as she cut through a mob that had been trying to sneak up on him. Let's start making our way back to Haruka ourselves, Kirito said. What am I going to do about him? Well, he's got all the makings of a thorn in your side if you don't, Asuna said as their pace picked up, and they each went through several more mobs. Did you ever give him permission to be that familiar? I know that you said the rules were different in games. No, I didn't give Copal permission to be that familiar with me, and it bothers me, Kirito admitted. And while I may not enjoy being called Kirito-sensei all that much, it's appropriate. At least you aren't shortening my username like Copal is, he said as he smashed through another 3 mobs, not bothering to stop as he heard them shatter. Asuna was silent for another moment while they carved a path through the little Nepenthes. How long is it going to take for us to get back to Haruka village at this pace? She asked. Thank Cardinal and Bishop both that she decided to change the subject. As long as we don't break our swords, Kirito did a few quick calculations in his head. I'd say another minute or so, if we don't slow down. He noticed Asuna nodding from the corner of his eye. The rest of the trip to Haruka village was in a strangely companionable silence. Kirito handed over one of his several little Nepenthes oval to the non-player character and received the Anneal blade in return. He equipped his new sword to his avatar, causing the Anneal blade to disappear from his hand and reappear over his right shoulder. So, Sensei, Asuna said quietly as they left the house, what are we going to do with the rest of the oval that dropped for us? We're going to sell them, of course, Kirito replied with a smirk. I wonder if Copal got one on his way back to the village, Asuna mused with a smirk as she followed him. Well, if he didn't, don't tell him that we have extra, Kirito grinned viciously. I'm going to message Ruby and Argo that we have quest items to sell. I do hope you'll be able to accept me making more than you off them, Asuna said sadly. How do you figure? Kirito asked, shooting her one of his best dubious looks. Experience, gumption, and looks, she said in a deadly serious tone, and turned and walked away as the grin broke out. Kirito rolled his eyes at his new friend as he followed her. Why were all his close friends extroverts and girls? November 10th, back in the town of beginnings. Ruby left Toshu with a purpose to find some of her new friends. According to Kirito's log, he was nearing Tobana. She wanted to have lunch with him. She also needed to talk to Argo about the item quests. The quest items Kirito and Asuna were selling. The prices her crush and her new friend were starting to ask for were just a ridiculous amount of core for the oval. It was getting to be outrageous and on the verge of being too much. So what should she... Ruby smiled. I think I'll go pick up some cream and meet Kiritoka in Tobana. Now, who should she ask? Klein would say yes, and so would Koke. Ruby whistled the tune of the background music on a much higher floor as she set out to find her quarry. Hey, Coca, Klein, Harry, Ruby called when she found them. You need something, Ruby, ja? Klein asked curiously. There's a quest I want to partake in, located in Mendai, Ruby said as she slid into the open chair between Klein and Koshin. I was hoping that you would escort me there. Well, that depends on where Mendai is, Klein said. And it depends on what kind of quest it is, too. It's called Cow's Counterattack, Ruby replied, sharing the details of the quest with Klein. You remember that quest from the beta test, right, Koken? She gave Koshin a grin. Yes, I remember. The quest was quite fun to complete, Koshin replied with a smirk as he adjusted his glasses. I'm ready to go when you are. Ruby nodded happily. So, Klein, what do you think? Want to come too? Klein took a moment to read through the details of the quest before meeting Ruby's hope-filled eyes. Fine. Yeah, we'll help you, Ruby-chan, he agreed, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. Ruby clapped her hands happily. Thank you so much, Klein. When they got to Medai Village, Ruby checked the game log again to make sure that the quest had not changed. So, Ruby-chan, where are we going? Klein asked, turning to look at her. We are looking for Serenity Meadows, Ruby replied. We're looking for an NPC called Melody. This is a retrieval quest, so we're going out to kill a number of orcs. The only problem is that I don't remember how many we need to kill, or if we need to kill a mini-boss too. Okay, that was a lie. She did know those things. It was impossible for Ruby to forget, even as limited as she was currently. Well, where is that so that we can get going? Harry one asked. I will lead you there, Goshen said. Ruby strode into the Serenity Meadows farmhouse confidently. I heard the shipment of milk didn't come in this morning. Orcs attacked the caravan, the NPC replied. I need someone to retrieve milk crates for me. All right, I can take care of that for you, Ruby said with a large smile. For a moment, Melody, the NPC, said nothing. Counting on you, goddess. Ruby smiled, even as her insides twisted into knots. We'll be back soon. So, where are we? Harry one asked as he looked around at the empty plains. Welcome to the Silk Road Dungeon, Ruby said with a wave of her arm. This is where we are going to find the quest items for Cow's Counterattack, she explained. We're looking for milk crates, right? Klein asked. Yes, that's right, Ruby agreed. The mob that drops them can sometimes change. Today, orcs dropped them. What are the other mobs on that list? Another friend of Klein's, Kunomitsu asked curiously. Often it's goblins, Ruby replied with a shrug, and very rarely it'll be kobolds, since Medai is close to the labyrinth, though Tolbana is closer. Each of the players before her nodded in understanding. We should get to work, Koshin observed.
There it is.
They were all breathing hard when the orc chieftain appeared. Each of them tensed up, ready to fight. The savage orc chieftain roared a challenge as 2 hit point bars appeared with its name over its head. We should be able to take it, Ruby said as the mob's opening animation played out. All right then, Klein agreed. Get ready, guys. Klein groaned as the savage orc chieftain shattered. That had been a hard fight. Nah, do we have what we came for? Dinam asked as he pulled a stamina potion out of his inventory and drank it. Ruby opened her menu to check her inventory. I've got them. Then let's head back and turn the quest in, Klein said as he pulled himself up. Ruby led herself into the Serenity Meadows farmhouse. I'm back, Melody, Greetings, goddess. Do you have what I asked you to retrieve? Melody asked. Right here, Melody. Ruby agreed, transferring the milk crates to the NPC. She took a moment to check on how far the NPC had to go before they felt human. She then connected the auto-learning of the characters on the first floor to every NPC on every other floor so that it wouldn't jar the players. It could break immersion to go from almost lifelike flow of conversation to completely wooden on a higher floor. Thank you, goddess, Melody said with a large smile. Please take your reward. Ruby nodded as several jars of cream appeared in her inventory. Thank you again, Melody, she said as her quest log updated and she gained a level. December 1st, 2022. First floor, Tolbana. Ruby smiled sunnily as she walked through the streets of Tolbana, the closest of the settlements to the labyrinth. Kirito and Asuna had been here for a couple of weeks, and Ruby wanted to see if they were behaving, and maybe chew them out for charging overprice for the little Nepenthes oval. Ruby found her crush and new friend sitting on the side of one of the stone fountains situated in Tolbana to simulate where the clean drinking water came from. Kitoke, Asuna-cha, she called as she hurried over. Hey, Ruby, Asuna called back as have to cut something. Haven't seen you in a while. How are you? I'm doing well, Ruby replied brightly as she sat down on Kirito's left, since Asuna was sitting on his right. I have a bone to pick with the pair of you. Kirito rolled his eyes. Oh, great, you're annoyed that we're charging as much as we are, aren't you? He asked tiredly. Ruby sent her crush a glare. You are charging more than 3 times what they are worth. Why are you doing it? Kirito and Asuna shared a look. Asuna answered. We had to deal with Kopel and his shit. Ruby stared at her friends for a moment, checking the player logs. It wasn't that she didn't trust her friends. Player logs were just more accurate than a player's memory. Finding what she wanted, Ruby sighed. Did he try that tactic he was so fond of in the beta? You mean the one where he would ask someone for help on a quest and then monster PK them for the quest item? Kirito asked. Ruby nodded. Yes, both her friends hissed angrily. It didn't work, obviously, but I was already in no mood to put up with his shit, Kirito said. So, when he tried it on us, I sent him back to Harunka. Asuna and I already had several little Nepenthes oval, so we decided we were going to sell them. Argo's keeping track of how much we make off them, since Asuna here bet me that she would make more off them. Ruby nodded. And did Kopel pick up a little Nepenthes oval on his way back to Harunka? She asked. Asuna smirked. No, he did not. She looked very pleased with herself. I was able to make him completely empty his wallet for one of mine. Ruby couldn't help herself. She started to laugh. Well, I can't say he doesn't deserve it, because he does, but that was mean, Asuna. Ruby managed to say between chuckles. I'm glad you approve. Asuna purred, looking like a satisfied cat. It'll be worth it, even if I lose our wager. Kirito agreed, a large grin on his face. So, what are you doing here in Tolbana, Ruby? Huh? Seeing his expression, Ruby checked his log. Nope, auto emote was still toggled off. Oh, so he was making an effort. I'm here to set up another bar, Ruby replied cheerfully. I've decided to call them Hoshu. I suppose it keeps Argo somewhere reliable. I take it everyone else is here is for the boss meeting then, Kirito asked. Yep, Ruby agreed. I would join you in fighting, but... The blonde looked down in shame, tears in her eyes. Hey, you are contributing, Kirito reassured her. But 1,000 people have died, Ruby sniffed, leaning into Kirito's chest. Ruby-cha. Asuna whispered, reaching around Kirito to place a hand on one of Ruby's shoulders. Kirito hesitated for a moment, then wrapped his arms around her. I won't say that it's okay, because people dying will never be, he said. But think about how much worse the death toll would have been if you hadn't stayed behind to restore our morale. Ruby blinked up at her crush and closed her eyes when Kirito tried to brush her tears away. I suppose, Ruby agreed sadly. And hey, just 'cause you aren't fighting doesn't mean you can't attend the boss meetings, Asuna pointed out. Ruby turned to the female player. That's true, she mused, cheering up considerably. Has anyone found the boss room yet? Not that we are aware, Kirito shook his head. And not from lack of trying either. Asuna and I have been looking for it since we got here. Asuna nodded. We have, she agreed. Ruby dried her eyes and mustered her best smile. I've got some cream to share. Shall we have a lunch? Kirito nodded. Sure, I've got a couple of black bread loaves, he said, taking 3 loaves out as Ruby produced a jar of cream. I've had those, Asuna pouted. They are really dry. Well, you'll like it better this way, Asuna-ta, Ruby said with a smile. If you're sure, Asuna hesitated, taking the loaf Kirito handed her. Then she reached over and pressed the top of the jar to receive some of the cream inside it. She then applied it to her loaf of black bread. Her eyes widened when she took the first bite. Remembering the company she was keeping, Asuna forced herself not to snark down the loaf. This is... She had no words. Good, right? Kirito asked with a smirk. Asuna made sure to swallow before answering. Yes, really good, Kirito-ke. Ruby-cha. And I think I'll stop there.
That was good.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was very good.
Nice.
I love the start. I know it's a continue off from what you said from last week, but I love the start of the swearing. It was a good like attention grabber. And the Ruby voice is great.
Yeah.
All right, then. I think it's Krill that's next.
Yep.
And we got really.
All right. I'm going to read a thing I'm writing called Brother Blue and Sister Red.
Yes.
Ooh, sounds good.
I'm going to be reading the second chapter I've written. So this is... which introduces 2 new characters to this fantasy world I'm building. This is Brother Blue and Sister Red, the Iron Key. The Iron Key was every bit as dusty, grim and grim-filled tavern house that any bard could tell in the drabbest of stories. A small tap room was poorly lit by half-burned candles, casting odd shadows about the place. The only other source of light was a barred window sitting almost above the roof of the establishment, and was at street level with the outside world. A small trickle of water ran down from the portal, down the wall, and pooled on the floor below. The tables and chairs were all mismatched, some being just barrels and pallets of wood slapped together to make furnishing. And all of it was stained in ale and blood from bar fights. The air was heavy with a scent of mildew, stale ale, and old pipe smoke, which hung heavily. Red's perfume was instantly overwhelmed by the stench, much to the redhead's disdain. You certainly know the best places to stay, she mocked her brother, taking a seat at the table. That was just a barrel and a chunk of driftwood on top of that. We need a thief. One that doesn't want to be seen, Blue told her, stacking together 3 old crates so that he would have a seat. Hello, sweetie. An oddly cheerful woman walks up to the 2. She wore a tight white blouse that barely held her breast, thigh-high pants, and dark brown hair tied into a braid that ran down to her hips. She looks over Blue, smiling at him as she leaned over, pretending to clean the table with a rag she held in her hand. We got ale and fresh meat, all for a fair price, handsome. Oh, I'm sure you do, Blue looks her over. And I bet that flirty tramp chick gets a lot of tips in your purse. Red tried not to laugh as watching the barmaid's smile turn to a hard frown. Just ale and food. Hold the poison, Blue threw in as the girl walked away in a huff, turning to smile at his sister. She's cute in the dark, I believe. Red turns her attention away from her brother, looking over the other patrons around them. Besides himself, there were 3 others, and all 3 were staring into their drinks, clearly not in any state to go off on an adventure with them. There are 1,000 inns and taverns in Ragnus, Red hissed, looking around. There were 3 other... and we are wasting our time here? None of these folks are more than pickpockets, not master thieves who can get us into the great library in the palace. Blue hushed his sister quickly. Red follows his gaze to the barred window. Sitting in, looking across the bar, was a large crow. His feathers were shiny with a slight tinge of red and interlaced within them. Wrapped around its neck with a green shawl, holding small sacks as if it was a pack mule. One large black eye was looking dead at the table. It's watching us, Blue told her. It has red feathers, Red responded. Magi touched? The barmaid returned to the table, slamming down 2 mugs of ale and 2 plates of food in front of them. The ale was a thick brown color and had an odd-grade semi-solid crust floating over it. The meat was clearly old, overcooked, and served with a side of slightly molded bread. Your food, she spat out. She looked back and forth between the 2 of them and followed her gazes to the crow. Ugh, that damn bird is back. She walks off, muttering something about feeding vermin. The siblings look at one another, both unsure if they should be at ease that the crow showed up here on the regular. With a silent nod, they both agreed not to talk about their plans any further in open like this, even in hushed voices. Blue takes a bite of his food, frowning and grimacing. Ugh, it tastes like a dead rat. Probably is, Red sniffed her ale, turning slightly green. This crud doesn't need to be poisoned to kill us. Pay and let's find somewhere else to eat real food. She sat her mug down, both of them jumping as the squeal came from a mouse whose tail it's now sat upon. The mouse was odd, being a bit larger than normal and having a slight red tint to her fur. The blouse and dress, obviously from a doll, clothed the animal, topped with a tricorn hat with a torn quill feather to accent it. On her hip, a sewing needle hung like a rapier. Red's face lit up, a broad smile dancing from ear to ear. Aw, she's adorable. She reached down to grab her. The mouse pulls her needle free from her belt, pricking her hand. Touch me not! Jagval yakal, zvir dit zedal. Blue's eyes go wide. A talking mouse. So they are magi touched. He turns to look back at the crow, letting out a large gasp as the bird fell upon him, buffering his face with wings and beak. Blue fell over backwards, kicking the table up, sending the mouse flying through the air. The mouse lands on Red's dress as the table crashes to the floor. Red looks down at her brother, trying to swat the crow off of him as the mouse scampers across her robes and jewelry, grabbing onto her staff. Stop that! Red tried to grab the mouse, grasping only air as the creature scrambles about her robes with nimbleness as a trapeze performer. We don't want to hurt you. The mouse looks at the crystals hanging from Red's staff. Grabbing one in her mouth, the mouse cuts it loose quickly with a swipe of her needle. The crystal was almost as large as the mouse. Sliding down the staff, Red let out a yell. Magnus, tid tilvit et flight vak. Red takes her staff, trying to smash the mouse. The creature was suddenly a lot less cute, trying to rob her of one of her spell crystals. Grip that back, you thief! Red hand started to light with fire. The crow breaks away from Blue, swooping down and grabbing the mouse in his talons, and quickly flying about the tavern room. The few patrons within watched it fly about, the mouse dancing about the crow's body until she was riding upon its back. The crow made a few twirls, making his way towards the barred window. Red let out a scream, blasting fire from her hand to strike the vermin. The crow and mouse let out a shriek of their own, barely dodging the blast that beat them to the window. The crow makes a few more swoops about the bar, using cover where he could. Blue got up, spitting out a black red-tinted feather from his mouth. Sister, stop shooting fire. You're going to attract bad attention. Stop setting my bar on fire, the barmaid shouted at Red, throwing a mug at her, striking her in the head. The maid was quick to sink below the bar again, as Red glares at her with a face full of rage. a cut now spilling blood from her forehead. Sophia, I think we've really gotten ourselves in over our head, the crow shouted, dodging an attempt to be grabbed by Blue. Did idiot Jack Vard? Maybe we should give the shiny back. We got this. The mouse shouted over the noise. I am the greatest thief in all of Ragnar. The mouse gives the crow a quick tap. Now's our chance. As the mage is distracted with the barmaid, we make our escape to free head. The crow and mouse flew about the bar's windows faster than a bat out of hell, the mouse letting out a cheer. Red let out a scream like a mad woman, running out of the iron key. Scanning the sky for the bird and mouse, she was not aware of the city guardsmen until she ran full force into them. Blue, not far behind, slid to a stop with his sister. Oh. And the day was going so good. The two siblings were loaded into a caged cart, both bound in shackles. Blue couldn't help but throw jabs at his sister. Just had to throw fire. Couldn't grab them out of the air with your magic. Oh no, that would have been simple. Had to flip out and start throwing fire. Oh, shut up, Red glared, looking into the sky. We're going to have to track them down after we pay our bell. You're lucky we can afford it, Blue grumbles, staring at holes into his sister. What good is your magic if you're not smart enough to use it properly? Think next time. Now go swing a sword at something. Red eyes never left the sky. A red bird and a red mouse, and they had names and spoke multiple languages. So the question is, who is the mage who gave them this power? Blue finished her thought. We got a long ride to the nearest courthouse. I'm sure we'll think of something by then. And that's the end.
Nice.
Nice.
That was really nice.
That was good. I still
Good
love
job,
the
bro.
banter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very good.
Oh, I have something to confess. While everyone was asking to confess, I did a bit of a small edits one night during the lull.
That's
Oh
right.
no, I do that too.
Yeah, for clarification, I emboldened some of the lines to indicate masked talking. I removed some lines, I edited some around, and I doubled the number of crates in the room. So we went from 8 to 16, so have that food for thought.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Nice.
It's all going to end up in somebody's hands in the next chapter. Maybe. I don't know. After all, only I know what I'm going to do with this. Anyway,
Did you,
Nick?
Yep. Oh, sorry. Crow, did you make the languages up, or is it derived?
No, that's Danish.
That's Danish that we're talking. Okay, nice.
I'm not exactly proficient in Danish, but I used the help of a translator and my own studies to try to pull it together. I thought it'd be nice to use that as a third language together.
Nice. I really liked it. And are you all the crows? Like Ray is all the Jedi?
Yeah.
I am all the wolves. I am the wisest of all.
I'm actually a raven. Don't tell people that. No.
I'm going to be eating... Well, I know one thing. The pack's going to be eating raven tonight. You lied to me.
Yes, my dark evil plan is working. Ravens,
Wait, are you a follower of Zinch?
which is the correct answer? Yes or no?
You know the answer is always yes.
But is it always, though?
Yeah.
What are rules, really, though?
What are rules? But
Yeah.
constraints.
Yeah. It's more or less guidelines, the natural order.
And Zinch would have to disagree with that. You change your face if you change anything for just the fun of it.
I hate to interrupt our banter, but we are on limited time and
Yeah.
still needs to read.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Yep, this should be. Yep, clocked in at 12 minutes, so we should be good. All right. Prologue. Yorktown, Gerhold, August 3rd, 1563. Storm clouds blocked out the stars from the night sky. The winds were roaring louder than a dragon bellowing in its cave. The rain downpoured upon the houses of the struggling city, like 1,000 arrows being constantly loosed on an unwary foe. The people of Yorktown cowered within their homes from this unrelenting hurricane, clutching to their marred memories of the last powerful storm that ravaged the island deep within their minds. Yet there was one man who remained unperturbed by the tempest. In fact, the Lord Governor sat quietly on the windowsill in his mighty stone palace, peering out into the darkness with a faint smile upon his lips. Archibald Armitage was the Lord Governor of what he considered a wretched island filled with the scum and dissolutes of the entire world. Earlier this year, another devastating hurricane had decimated the island's former capital, Port Siester, forcing the colonists to relocate further inland and build again. The once bustling port had already suffered terribly from the catastrophic tremors some years past, where streets crumbled and the buildings became liquefied rock that crushed many of the colonists in an unglorified death. Once the soil finally solidified, this struggling colony of Gerhold Island became Armitage's responsibility as he naively took the position of Lord Governor. He believed he could bring the colony back from the depths and to its once prosperous state, as it was in the age of the Buccaneers. But despite his best efforts to rebuild Port Siester, fate was against him. War overtook Krosmos, a war that pinned his government, the Unified Provinces, and their ally, the Northern Republic, against the mighty Magkar Empire. These nations fought over the line of succession for a different kingdom, the Iron Imperium, each nation wanting to place a different ruler in this formidable kingdom. A ruler that would be beneficial to their own personal gain. Except Armitage wasn't concerned with the reasons why war began and what they were fighting for, but more so with how it would be fought. War brings forth opportunities and profit, so Archibald Armitage hired many ships to raid Magkar shipping and merchants, and if possible, the formidable Magkar treasure fleets. There was hope once again to this colony as currency was flowing in the hands of sailors and government officials alike, until the now second biggest hurricane had destroyed the remaining ships and docks in Port Siester. And with the war for the empty throne abruptly concluding, there was nothing to be done to gain any more profits. For the world craved peace, yet peace does not always mean stability. Port Siester was too far gone in the governor's eyes, so Armitage had to sell the goods and cargo his privateers had rightfully procured during the war to build a second city, Yorktown, the new capital of Gerhold. But now there was no money left for this struggling colony to use, and there was no coin that could be made on this island. Gerhold was not an island containing vast riches or supplies for the unified provinces, not like the provincial colonies in the northern forester lands, where they can rely on the fur trades to keep themselves stable. This island was taken by the Buccaneers of old for its strategic position against the Magkar Empire, a position that allowed Armitage's personal privateers to raid the shipping lanes and deprive their enemies of valuable cargo. The colony thrived with conflict, but labored during times of security. This was the case for most of the Unified Provinces colonies in the New World, specifically in the Satia Islands. These colonies were not founded for the potential of trading lumber or the possible plantations they can grow, but for its highly favorable battlefield positions against the Magkar Empire, the true rulers of the New World. And though victory in the war granted the Unified Provinces permission to claim the northern forester lands, the Magkar still held the most valued prize of all, the Azul Mountains in the southern lands. Silver and gold was the currency of these unexplored lands, and the Magkar Empire had discovered this first. It was all due to the exploits of Jonathan Forrester, a traitor to the Unified Provinces, but a renowned explorer to the Magkars. He sailed across the large Lartev Ocean over 200 years ago, discovering the many islands and two large continents that made up this new world. He even named the continents after himself, the Southern Forester Lands and the Northern Forester Lands. But even Armitage admitted that the names fit, as the continents were covered with wild jungles and dense forests. Even so, the Magkar Empire had the opportunity to conquer the New World, and with plenty of time and resources at their disposal, they managed to do even better than any other nation had expected. With the Magkar's declaration that the gods had gifted the Empire these lands, they let loose their cruel conquistadors and quickly overpowered the primitive wood elves who resided there, the former rulers of the New World. With the subjugation of the southern forester lands, the Magkar set up numerous silver mines along the Azul Mountains, which was easily accessible to the ocean, and the other nations were too busy feuding with their own borders that they paid no heed to the Magcar's exploits, not until they sailed back to their homeland, Maldririo, with enough coin to hire and supply an armada of almost 1,000 ships. Then the known world of Krosmos began shifting its focus to these unexplored lands, and it became a scramble to claim as much territory as possible, spawning the brief buccaneering age that threatened the Magcar colonies, until it all culminated in the war for the empty throne. All these events had led to the creation of Yorktown, the appointment of a new Lord Governor, and Armitage could only stare into the pouring rain, thinking if past events could be altered, his life would be far more desirable. And like always when he contemplated his life's missteps, his thoughts shifted towards home, to the unified provinces and the fertile lands of Ablanos. This was why Lord Governor Armitage smiled at this destructive hurricane, for it brought back the memories of home. The cold air is just like the temperature of Ablanos, Armitage reminisced, not the sweltering heat that consistently swarmed the Satia Islands. Despite the wooden shutters violently clattering against his stone palace, Armitage reached his hand out into the storm to feel the splatter of raindrops fall against his flesh. Ablanos was constantly pestered by rain, and the Lord Governor tried to picture in his mind of home, his former lodgings when he was just a boy, living with his parents who would all stand against the windows, observing how the rain would trickle down the glass. But Armitage couldn't see the memory clearly enough, for most of it had faded with time. Archibald Armitage hated Gerhold. From the unabating sickness to the nagging colonials, he despised this land. He despised it even more so when he realized he could grow nothing from it. He couldn't grow a colony, a home, nor even a profit. Armitage pulled back his soaking wet hand and craned his head to see his proxy horse sleeping silently on his feather bed, and his smile vanished. I can't even grow a family. As Armitage again toiled with the idea of throwing himself out the window and landing head first onto the dirt, there was a loud knock on his bedroom door. An unrecognizable servant to Armitage's eyes rudely opened the door and walked in before the Lord Governor could even speak, and the servant boy called out, "My Lord Governor, you are needed!" Archibald Armitage, though he loathed his lot in life, would never shy away from his duties as governor of Yorktown. He picked up his chamber pot and flung his fecal matter and whatever muck lay within it upon his sleeping whore, and as she woke up with a start, Armitage then politely asked, "Remove yourself from this hearth at once, bitch. Your services are no longer required." While the girl tried to clean herself and to hold back her own vomit, the Lord Governor approached the servant boy and commanded, "Once these matters are concluded, have my bed burned and then find me another before the next night." The servant seemed not to hear his lord, and he said, The captain awaits you in the great hall." Armitage grabbed the boy around the throat and reminded the servant of his lot in life. "My Lord Governor, boy." The servant, who could have been no older than 14, squirmed within Armitage's clutches and gasped, "My Lord Governor, it is Pyle that waits for you. You!" Armitage loosened his grip when he heard the name Pyle, his last loyal privateer captain, and waited to hear the rest of what his servant boy had to say. The captain has brought debris, my Lord Governor." Armitage clenched his jaw and see through his teeth. "What debris?" And what the servant told the master relieved Armitage of his anger and even his worries, for he had reason to believe the gods had finally smiled on him once more. He quickly marched barefoot to the great hall in only his white nightgown and without a power wig to cover his scalping head, looking the part of a loon rather than a Lord Governor. As he entered the great hall, which was covered with oil paintings of battling ships and a mosaic floor depicting a crowned tree, he was greeted by his last loyal privateer, Captain Peter Pyle, who, unlike the governor, dressed for his part. Peter wore black muddy boots and a black tricorn hat, which he tipped at the sight of Armitage, dripping water upon the tile floor. "My Lord Governor," he coldly said, not even attempting to add any gratefulness or niceties in his voice. "I brought you something from Gerhold's beaches." With that, another figure emerged from the shadows, a deformed high elf and loyal dog to Peter Pyle. But the governor was not thinking of his soaking wet privateer or the disgusting elf who was missing chunks of his face. He was more focused on the plank of wood the high elf carried in his arms. "Show it to me," Armitage ordered, and the elf obeyed, bringing the wood closer for the governor's inspection. He began to examine what appeared as a normal plank of wood, except he saw there were markings carved into it, the markings the servant boy had told him about, and it appeared to be a name. La Vinta Pladida, whispered a shocked Armitage. This was the greatest treasure ship of the powerful Magcar Empire, carrying silver and gold from the mines of the New World to the Old One, now reduced to nothing more than a piece of driftwood, found on the shore of a provincial colony. Armitage looked to his privateer captain, who stiffly grinned, showcasing his one golden tooth. The Tempest was just as dangerous as we predicted. Pyle laid his hand on the driftwood, but more so to the Magcars. Indeed, it seems the Magcars have misplaced their fortunes, Armitage said, listening to the ear-piercing thunders of the hurricane, and his smile returned. Let's go find it. And that is that for the prologue.
I want to go on an adventure.
I want to go kill some. I want to kill some dark elves.
Well,
We do get to kill some dark knife ears, right?
yeah, there's many elves' death. Yep.
Death. Yes.
Yep. So
Let it be known, I hate dark elves.
Yep.
yeah.
I like the pirate setting crow most. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, you gotta like the fact that. Also, you gotta like this one. Ravens are quite dangerous creatures. Drake the Duel said this. Ravens are quite dangerous creatures, able to kill people and get away with it in a court of law. Don't get the Baltimore Ravens. Never mind.
Okay. So nice. I really like it. I think that you have a very great gift for dialogue. And
Yeah. The thing that was running through my head as soon as you started reading was, it's Pirate's Life for me. That would not stop, and we kept going and going and going.
I'ma just load my gun.
That's
I'ma go
awesome.
kill
Yeah,
me
just
some
start blasting.
elves. I'ma pillage, murder, kill, murder, maim, kill, burn.
Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You
Pillage,
are a
then
pirate.
burn.
Yeah, the blood runs cold. We take our loot, but we don't get old.
That's amazing.
so
I'm trying to say something.
Oh, thank you, Drake the Duelist.
Yeah,
so,
you seem to have a gift for it, like Yokai does.
yes,
You
I would
didn't trip
agree.
up even once.
So I have a little bit of a poll. I have 3 options for what I can read you.
I picked the
have-
4th option.
Hmm?
I
I've
picked
got,
second option E and have you read everything in your entire library.
Yes.
Read it all.
yeah. Well, do you want to see 1 second? Allow me to reveal my face. So
Ah!
Stop the line.
Yeah.
I almost convinced that you're not done. Dylan's actually holding a gun to your head. You're just pretending to be him.
so first book,
Oh, nice.
second book, third book, fourth book, fifth book, eighth book,
Ninth book.
ninth. And I've got another one that just barely came out.
I choose A.
Okay, well, I haven't told you the options.
I choose A.
A book, B book, and
So-
C book. Pick a book.
So I have a a council of bad guys kind of shooting the breeze, talking about stuff. I have a battle in the middle of a storm, and I have an eldritch sea battle.
Eldritch Sea Battle.
Eldritch Sea Battle.
Yeah, I was about to say the pirate in me wants to go with the Eldritch Sea Battle.
Eldritch. 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 Eldritch.
The only one who was not going to say that has been outvoted.
Okay. All
I
right.
love democracy.
Alrighty.
Democracy is the greatest thing ever.
And
It
we're-
allows
Yes,
me to,
it is.
it allows me to stab everyone in the back and say that they chose to be stabbed.
Yep. I am currently. This is like one of my newer, my kind of like lesser done projects. It's only like 26 pages long.
Lesser
I'm
done.
Yeah, it's only like 13K words, so I'm just working on it. So like this is actually just something like I came up with playing a game of Call to Adventure. Basically what we did was we played through the game and we recorded each of our choices, whether we won or not, and then we created an outline for the story based on that. And a lot of the other guys lost interest in it, but I was just like, I'm gonna write it, and so I did. And I decided to and one of the things I decided to do is like one of my friends actually passed away fairly recent, like a year ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
F in the chats, everyone.
yeah. So my way of honoring him was I named a character in my book after him, and I because I knew that he had a crush on Mariah Carey, I made Mariah Carey an analog of Mariah Carey, his wife.
Oh, how sweet!
Aw.
You're nice, Done.
That's what I do with all of my cats.
Alrighty. So, Lord Commodore Nathaniel Seaborn looked out over the Sea of Telenar, secure on the deck of his ship, the splendid Mariah. The two smaller ships trailing his own galleon were the Flint Kansar, captained by Bale Birdseye, and the White Wichitan, and captained by Bale's blood brother, Bronson Strongarm. Affectionately, Nathaniel his large calloused hands caress the ship's wheel. You might not be in person with me, my dear, he whispered, but at least I can sail with your spirit at my side. She was tall for a woman, but Nathaniel made her look diminutive by comparison. Of all of his crew, Nathaniel dwarfed everyone else. At half against 6 feet in height, nearly 2 pound stone of pure muscle, Nathaniel was a fearsome sight, though he was somewhat baby-faced without his thick beard extending to his chest. Though next to him was a sight that would have made most men piss themselves. If anybody else but him could see the ghoul. The ghoul had once been Captain Makar, one of the captains slain in the Purge of the North, sat beside him like a morbid ghost. Bloody wounds in his chest, permanently oozing ichor, large chunks of skin missing from his chest and arms, gave him a fearsome appearance. Lord Commodore, one of the crewmen called, frantically pointing toward the starboard side. Look, another ship! Immediately, Nathaniel turned to look in the direction of the sailor's pointing finger. There was a ship, and parts of the deck appeared to be ablaze. He could hear the ghoul beside him urging him to just abandon the ship, but Nathaniel resisted. No, he thought. I will not abandon whoever is on that ship to die. Bring her around, he yelled, rapidly moving the wheel. Move! Get the ram up from the damn hold! Hold, his first mate Merrifield yelled, waving to the other crew members, his perpetual blinding grin on his face. As ever, his perfectly coiffed blonde hair and chiseled cheekbones made him nearly as pretty as a girl. Where does he keep the cream for his hair? Nathaniel wondered for the 100th time. Don't do it, the ghoul whispered. Whatever set that fire will kill a large number of your men. I know, Nathaniel shot back. I can do this. I need to help them. Our purpose is to find my niece, Makar insisted. Something dark is there. Something that will attempt to kill you before you take me to my niece. I've been through a lot of battles, both sea and land, slain 100 monsters of the deep, and survived a dozen storms. Nathaniel remarked, adjusting his scabbard for easier access to his sword. If there are men on that ship, I need to rescue. Most of those deeds were accomplished with my help, Makar remarked. Captain, Bosun Gunnel shouted before Nathaniel could respond. We've got the ramps and the water buckets ready. Merrifield, take the wheel. Nathaniel drew his sword and raised it. Get the water and the sand buckets on the catapults and fire. Signal the other ships to do the same. Aye, aye, Commodore. Airfield responded, saluting before running to the stern and grabbing the flags. Yelling, the sappers loaded up the 3 catapults on the deck with sand and water. Loose! Weapons Master Lim yelled, his short, fiery hair making him stand up from the crowd out of browns and blacks, just as Merrifield's blonde hair did. The catapults flung the sand and water onto the ship in a careful sequence, extinguishing large sections of the flaming deck. Nathaniel ran down the steps and prepared to be the first to cross. Can you give me some of your power? He asked Makar. Yes, but be careful. The ghoul flexed his ruined hands. Using this power will taint you. Perhaps, but if it will save these men, I will take the risk of a little bit more stain on my soul. Nathaniel raised his sword. Let's do this! The rams fell just as the catapults launched another barrage of extinguishing material onto the deck. Nathaniel leaped onto the ramp and ran forward, dashing toward one of the doors and hacking through the wood so he could rush below decks. As they rushed through into the fire, Makar began muttering words that made the air ripple with shadow outlines around them both. Smoke was everywhere, but Makar's magic protected Nathaniel. Grunting with exertion, Nathaniel bowled through the obstacles in his way, burning debris for the most part, searching for someone to save. As he searched, he found a few burned corpses, but as he got lower, less and less flames were in evidence. Feeling desperate, Nathaniel tore open another trapdoor and leaped deeper into the depths of the ship. Eyes darting around, Nathaniel broke open door after door, searching for any survivors. Nothing. Not even a single body, Makar remarked, seeming some rather disturbed. Something dark and evil is here. Tread lightly. Nathaniel nodded and kept on searching, though as he went down toward the bottom of the hull, an indescribable smell of rot and damp mold rose to meet his nose. Makar's scarred nose wrinkled slightly, though he couldn't smell anything physical. Something very wrong is going on in the depths of the ship, he remarked. Why the fire? Before Nathaniel thought of an answer, or before he could finish. Bait. Yes, for well-meaning captains like yourself just wanting to help. Nathaniel's Makar's dry tone caused Nathaniel to give him a hurt look. It's moral to be sure, but creature like whatever is down here is likely not something that shares your code of ethics. Fair enough. Nathaniel drew his sword and kept walking. Finally, the stench of rot became almost overpowering as he neared a door with a layering of slime growing from it under the crack. Grimly, he slid forward and pushed open the door to the main hall. What lay beyond the door was a scene from nightmares. It looked to be the entire crew, men and women, was restrained by coils of against the walls by coils of hardened slime, though the substance seemed to ooze slightly at the edges. Each of them had horrifying pustules growing from their exposed skin, each one leaking some kind of green pus. Multicolored slime covered the floor and the walls, the source of the vile smell. However, the worst of it was in the center of the hole and extended toward each of the poor crew members. It was a writhing mass of purple tentacles, each one sliding down the throat of a member of the crew, its appendages pulsing with a dim glow as it fed on its victims. As soon as the door opened to reveal Nathaniel, the creature slowly uncoiled. A more unified set of tentacles, almost like bare tendons, emerged from the center, topped by a strange, smooth, face-like structure that seemed to be missing a mouth. with a trio of glowing blue eyes, one in the forehead. Glowing purple dots flowed along what Nathaniel could only describe as the monster's chest, giving it a more fearsome appearance. Who dares disturb the feast of Ritsudag the Ever-Hungry? The creature's voice had a strange, undulating, soothing quality, while being harsh and grating. As its voice reverberated through the hold, Nathaniel's stored hand began dipping ever so slightly. "What have you done to them?" Nathaniel demanded, though his voice was slurred with sleep. "They ventured into a place where they should never have entered." The creature's voice was so soothing as it extended several tentacles toward Nathaniel. "Just like you." Makar hissed, and suddenly Ritsudag's voice was drowned out by a horrible shrieking sound. Nathaniel snapped back to reality and slashed the creature's tentacles out of the air before they could wrap around him. Enraged, Ritsudag shrieked in pain, and abruptly a hideous face formed from purple energy appeared above the monster, connecting to its host with a set of ethereal tendrils. It opened a fanged mouth and unleashed a torrent of glowing energy toward Nathaniel, but the creature seemed unaware of Makar. Normally, the ghoul waited for Nathaniel to ask for his dark power, but in this case, he made an exception. Shadows swirled around Nathaniel as if the power that he held attracted them like beetles to dead flesh. Despite the intensity of the power he felt, it was Makar who directed the power toward the creature, allowing Nathaniel to fight it on a physical level. Desperately, he hacked at the creature's seemingly endless array of tentacles. The ethereal face above the creature howled and kept attacking, but Makar deflected the attacks. "Come on!" Nathaniel rushed forward, swinging his sword like a woodman's axe rather than an elegant cutlass. Snarling, he kept on the attacks, slashing wildly. What was this monster? He'd never seen anything like it. All of the deep monsters he'd faced him in dangers, yes, but this creature could do magic. As Nathaniel hacked another dark tentacle away, the creature shrieked again, and this time it was ending a shot of energy at him this time. All around him, the liquid sloshed up the crew members, leaving nothing but a strange residue behind. "These thralls at least are mine now, ghoul sworn," Ritsudag crooned, the voice only sweet as it wrapped its tentacles around each of the prisoners. "Leave, and I will take them away. There are a few you might save from the blaze or drowning in the sea." Desperate to free the prisoners, Nathaniel leaped forward, but the creature blasted the hull with a burst of dark power. Instantly, the slime-drenched crew and their captor fell into a spray of water, just as the torrent struck Nathaniel, knocking him backward. Groaning, he pushed the door shut and rushed up the stairs to safety, even as the water began rushing up and up. As if some sleep had broken over the ship, he heard various voices and screams from all around him. The fire had begun spreading, despite the best efforts of his crew, and now his crew was in danger. "Dang it, damn it," Nathaniel snarled as he pulled away the door to reveal a group of 4 poor sailors trapped in what looked to have been and the ooze coating the bottom of the ship. Fortunately, these ones didn't have the green pustules. However, they looked as capable of walking as beached fish. "I'm going to need some extra strength, Makar," he said quickly as he sheathed his sword. With a grunt, he picked up 4 of them, 2 under each arm. "Too much power will corrupt you," Makar warned. "I don't care. I need to save them," he growled. "I lost Clayton to Ronblade. I won't let the families of these sailors experience the same thing if I can stop it." Memories of the day when he'd come back to his wife after the battle in the north, carrying their beautiful baby boy in his arms. They'd buried him with full rites. Then they'd run as the north burned behind him. Shame curdled inside his stomach, but he pushed through it as he grabbed 2 more people, making it even 4. He wished he could take more, but there was only so much his arm could cover. Makar could do many things, but pick up things with his mind was not one of them. Snarling, he rushed through the flames, the fire guttering as it came within Makar's influence. the men desperately fighting the flames above decks, only to allow the crewmen and women to rush back. Nathaniel looked backward desperately, but the ship was sinking rapidly downward. Likely the ones he'd been unable to take were now dead, swallowed by the waves. We've got 6 men, and just as many women out of the upper decks. Commodore Seaborn, Merrifield yelled, grinning triumphantly. No losses on our side. I saw something today, Merrifield, Nathaniel thought, but he couldn't puncture his first mate's enthusiasm. Leaving those men down there was as if he saw his own boy again, bleeding out from a cut in his neck. Clayton hadn't been able to get out a single word before he died. Something that I hadn't thought to see in my lifetime. Get them aboard the ship, he commanded, letting the people he'd saved dropped into the waiting arms of the crewmen. Just as he was about to run back down, the deck cracked as the flames spread toward them. Swallowing back at his sadness, Nathaniel turned and ran over to the ramp after the rest of his crew. As soon as he was safely aboard his ship, the crew pulled the ramps back, just as the decks below exploded in a burst of powder-fueled fire. You did what you could, Commodore. Merrifield mutters under his breath, reaching up and placing a comforting hand on Nathaniel's shoulder. I saw something down there, Merrifield, Nathaniel said softly, taking a deep breath as he watched the ship sinking below the waves. A creature from the deep. A monster who was taking humans like us and turning them into its minions somehow. Merrifield blanched and glanced away to the ship cautiously. Should we sail to Minlarven and start fortifying it, Commodore? Yes, Merrifield. Nathaniel leaned against the banister. We need to get our families ready for whatever is coming. And that's the end.
Nice.
That was good.
Well done.
Yes.
I love how from the very beginning.
According to plan.
The very beginning, like the tone was sort of set up with the creature, and I love that.
That was spine chilling. I love it.
Yeah, I like the creepy voice. It was so creepy. The tentacles going to like the sailor's mouth, like
Ugh.
I know where this is going, I thought.
It reminded me of hentai.
Also,
At least
the beach fish line. I like that one. That was good.
Yeah, that was great.
Dragonlord wants to know which book was that from.
Oh, so that book is from a book that I am currently working on. It's called Rule of Madness.
Ooh.
An appropriate title.
Yes.
I always wanted to make a horror story. Or at least try my best to scare people, even if they know what's inside.
Yeah, this one is kind of a kind of my attempt to kind of do something interesting with like water-based horror stuff as opposed to just land-based horror stuff.
I want to pick up Condemned again so I can replay that game, so that I can make a story using Condemned as a basis for how they want to structure the horror, because that game is terrifying.
The ship is a perfect location for a horror story. The isolation of it already is well set.
Yeah, not to mention, you could be jumped by a crazed hobo at any moment. Dude, the next time you're constantly scared. You don't know if there's a hobo hiding behind a corner with a gun, a board, a baseball bat, a 2x4, a fire axe, a crowbar, a pipe,
a cookie.
Sometimes maybe even be holding a gun and you don't even know it. Sometimes,
yeah.
So it's like either way, either he was there and he did hold one of these items, or it was just your imagination. There was nothing there at all.
And can you trust the crew? Are they turning against you? Are they part of the plot? Are they victims just like you?
I never got far, but I do remember the train sequence is amazing. No other horror game will be able. I don't I haven't played a lot of horror games since I'm not a big fan of it, but I do want to repick that one up. Since it's like watching, it's like playing a combination between Seven and Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of horror, but I might make an exception for this book.
Thank you.
Not to mention,
That
main
was
theme's also
amazing.
killer as all hell.
So what else did you guys like about it?
How you described the stench was also really neat.
Yeah.
That was unique.
And the description of the monster was great too.
What was the name of the monster again?
Ritsudag.
Ritsudag. I like how you made it sound like alien, yet we can still pronounce it.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I actually stole the name and the creature design from Chaotic.
Cancel him.
Well, you're done for.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is, like, Chaotic was never popular to begin with, and besides that, as far as I know, like, it's like so niche that nobody's really going to remember it.
Wait, isn't that card game?
Yep.
Oh, I remember that.
I've never heard of it,
John,
so you're safe.
Bring back bad nostalgia. That show sucked.
Bring back the horrible. Don't be careful. They might reboot it and change everything you hated about it and make you hate it even more.
Again.
Oh no. Yeah.
That already.
I don't hate. I thought Chaotic was fine. It made more sense than Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, that's not hard.
It's created.
But then
Don't
again,
you mean?
Yu-Gi-Oh
Hang on. Let me
was
just look up
fun.
the name right quick. Let me just find it. Give me a few. No, I'm pretty sure you got it wrong. It's actually Paradox, Billiards, Voice Strain, Roulette, Fourth Dimensional IPQ, Strip Poker.
Oh, God.
Strip Poker.
So,
Good Lord, that sounds so dumb.
Yes, that's the thing. Paradox, Billiards, Voice Strain, Roulette, Fourth Dimensional IPQ. I don't want to say it twice. It's a long name.
We got
God.
It's from the Emperor had a text-to-speech device. It's essentially Yu-Gi-Oh! Except every match is immediately within the Shadow Realm.
Oh no.
Oh,
Yeah, and the difference
so,
and the difference is between is that you have to do something if it's like the first time it's used for a very petty reason.
Yeah.
so
The Emperor wants
Chaotic
Robot,
cards.
the Emperor wants Robot Gilman Slice support cut. Kitten refuses to do it, so he challenges him to a game. If he wins, he has to cut his life support.
So this is actually the this is the design that I used for Ritsudag.
Oh wow. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Things that suck, but we like it anyway, stream.
Well, I got one I really liked, despite being bad.
Looks like I'm going to get to talk
It's
about
like I like Dracula Untold, and that movie's not the. And that movie's meh.
alrighty. Alrighty. Well, I think that concludes things. I want to thank my guests, Neph Champion, Wise Wolf, Nick Brown, and Dr. Crow for sharing their work. It has been absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was awesome.
I'll be back here soon.
Alrighty.
I got 20 things I want to talk about.
Alrighty. I know that you wanted to chat with me next Thursday, so that spot is still open.
Yeah, I got some ideas on them all over for you for my Donji fanfic.
Alright. That's totally cool. I'd love to chat with you. If anybody just wants to pimp anything, send me a link. DM me a link to their stuff, and I'll put it in.
Yeah, I'll DM you a link to War of Shadow so people can read it in convenience.
Yeah. Now, thank you for telling me that you're doing a thing called War of Shadows. I need to change one of my titles now for my upcoming books.
Dude, don't worry, I'm not suing. I just came up with it's like it had to be the. I don't go for very creative names. I just go for the most literal I can think of.
No, you're fine.
It's
Alright.
literally the name literally implies it. It's a war in the shadows. There's nothing else. It's like if you're expecting any subversion of expectations, don't. Like if you think is it going to be out in the open? It's like no. A lot of this, no. Everything is within the shadows. It's not like it's like there's a war on the surface visual, and then there's the one behind that. You know.
I'm not all that creative with titles either.
I'm not really original with my. I'm more I don't like to call myself original. I like to be creative, but not original.
Yeah.
I still haven't come up with a title for my book. I literally just place some words here. Honor and glory. I'll change it eventually.
I just named my book.
War of Shadows is generic enough that you can't really claim it because someone can and will and has come up with it completely independently.
Just name your book after your characters.
I won't.
With brighter blue.
Well, I do have one OC that I created myself for the SGB segments. I don't have his last name, but I do know his first name. Take a guess. And it's right, and it has to be something Russian. Just think of something Russian.
Putin.
No.
Vladimir.
No.
Is it the Tim Curry Russian from that one game where he was fired?
Oh God, no.
Or worse, Tim Curry Congo.
Just think. Just try as hard as you can. Just think of a name.
He wanted to escape from the corruption of capitalism.
Steve.
No, okay, here, I'll give you a hint. The first letter in his name is A.
Alan.
No.
Alan.
No.
Just tell us.
Alexei.
Alex?
Oh, of course it does.
Oh, of course.
I feel stupid for not getting it.
What? It was the most Russian name. How could you not get? How could you guys not get it?
Of course. Of course. How could we not get it? I feel so stupid. No.
It's one of the most rushed. It's the most. It's a very funny thing because it's like now I think about it, that sounds more like a girl's name.
All right.
Alexa, what's the temperature?
Alexei. It literally just changed.
Alrighty.
I literally just changed around the A to the E to an I.
Time to end the stream.
Alrighty. Well, it's been fun chatting with you guys. And now the only thing I have to say to everybody here is let me find it.
Oh no, he has something for us.
Oh no.
I'm so excited.
Holy shit. Okay, we're going.
You could have said please.
Please.
Perfection.
Diamond didn't say.
Why are you still here? Go.
Alrighty. Alrighty. Alright, everybody.
I'm nearly